You know there's a difference between a character who's strong in their sexuality and them being sexualized, right?
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can, spins a web any size.
Hello there, fans of Spring Duel channel, Taffin8 here, and I'm doing another response video to an old video. Now this response is one to Game Brain, and I'm only doing it because the information is blatantly false. And this video was recommended to me for all the hype surrounding Spider-Man PS4. His video overall is really solid, but I have two problems with it, so I'll only be using those parts of his video. Link to his original video in the description. Also, this is a return to me being more of an asshole when I respond, so don't be surprised when I'm a little snarky. Alright, let's get to it.
Spider-Man Web of Shadows is painfully underwhelming. A retooled combat system is a definite upgrade over previous titles, though almost every other aspect of the experience is utterly dull. A half-assed morality system that only amounts to different cutscenes and
You really didn't pay attention to the morality system at all, did you? Because it has a definite impact on the narrative of Spider-Man Web of Shadows. It's true that the primary part of it comes into focus through the choice system, but literally every action you take in the game affects gameplay. It's literally on the back of the box. You get to decide whether you're red or black, whether you're assisted by heroes or by villains. It asks what you are willing to do in order to save the city. I expect a guy named Game Brain to be able to read, but that's asking for too much, apparently. If you're using the symbiote too much and causing tons of collateral damage in your fights, civilians will run away from you at the sight of you, heroic allies like Luke Cage, Wolverine, and Moon Knight will assist you, and the police will actively fire upon you when you attempt to assist them. The game literally has multiple endings based on how you play. It's more than just the cutscenes.
an empty, ugly city.
The city only becomes empty toward the end of the game. Again, did you actually play the game? There are civilians and cars throughout the game until people begin to fear going outside because of the symbiote invasion you're trying to quell. I don't know where you got this hate boner for Spider-Man Web of Shadows, but it's really annoying.
And one of the worst stories I've ever had the misfortune of viewing.
A story about symbiotes taking over New York is bad. How? Different from the story told in the original Spider-Man game in 2000? How? Different from Friend or Foe? How? You mentioned one of these in the video, so you can't be so dense as to not know what they are.
Thankfully, the combat system does offer some original ideas, that is, until they get boring. Using your web to zip between enemies is satisfying the first 10 times, but after the game requires you to do it over and over and over again, the design begins to feel stale. The repetitive objectives I addressed in Ultimate Spider-Man have become even more monotonous. You'll be asked to mindlessly defeat enemies on a street corner, only to be then told to do the exact same thing just a few hundred meters away, only to go back to the same exact location to complete the same objective. Rarely is repetition this shameless.
So again, I ask if you played the game. This is in the beginning of the game, and what is essentially the tutorial. You're not a games journalist as far as I know, so you should be able to complete one. After the game has taught you how to use these skills, using them is completely up to you. To say it's repetitive for the game to show you how to use one of its mechanics simply seems like an overblown point. And the evidence is in your clips. You use scenes from the one tutorial where it happened. Have a little intellectual honesty, mate.
Web slinging still feels intuitive, but certainly hasn't evolved, and trivial
A legitimate point would have been that sometimes the webbing isn't physics-based. And what about the ability to climb up a web line? Not going to mention that? Go against the narrative? Okay.
conclusions like the aforementioned morality system are hollow. I guess they figured that the black Spider-Man suit worked so well in Spider-Man 3 that they had to try it here. Do we need to go over this again?
Now dig on this.
So you have a hate boner for Spider-Man 3 as well. Why didn't you talk about the Spider-Man 3 game then instead of Web of Shadows, which is indefinitely the superior product? I already addressed how you misunderstand the morality system, so just go on.
Lacks polish and any serious thought put into its open world. It's hard to feel satisfied defeating droves of rehashed thugs when the citizens you are supposedly saving are absent from the equation. Spider-Man has to feel the weight of his responsibility and who that responsibility belongs to. When you have stylish combat that is in service of nothing except looking cool, your connection with the city is going to deteriorate.
You literally just played clips where there are civilians in the background. There are objectives that are literally called save this number of civilians. The only scenes you showed without civilians were during the tutorial, where again, you're learning to play the game. And for someone who just complained during the Ultimate Spider-Man section that the civilian assistance system seemed monotonous, in this game where they make it optional, you don't even give it that praise. And if you want to feel the weight of your responsibility, just take on those optional missions. Or take someone who was injured in a fight you caused to a hospital afterward. And then stop fighting and risk getting hurt or killed to save someone from an exploding car. The options are there, brother. You're just not showing them.
Stylish combat that is in service of nothing except looking cool, your connection with the city is going to deteriorate. Web of Shadows also borrows moments straight out of Spider-Man 2, such as chasing Black Cat through the city. In fact, Spider-Man 2000, Spider-Man 2, and Web of Shadows all portray Black Cat in revealing clothing.
So they portrayed Black Cat in a comic book accurate costume in a comic book game, just like every other character in the 3 games that you mentioned. Color me surprised. Never would have guessed, honestly. Almost like the costume is iconic and easily recognizable for her character.
I think it's fair to say she hasn't been explored as a character so far.
Not explored as a character. Again, I have to ask, did you play the game? But I'll get into this point when you get into it later. For now, shell out more criticism of things you don't quite get. Your closing point, I don't really care for. The drop in sales could have been attributed to a number of things, but I'll lean on the idea that Spider-Man 3 came out right before it.
Web of Shadows suffered fatally from a poorly written, overly serious story.
I see you're shitting on Web of Shadows again. What's overly serious about the story? What's an overly serious story to begin with? It'd be nice if you defined things rather than saying, well, Web of Shadows bad, Shattered Dimension's good.
Better than any other Spider-Man game I played for this video.
I don't believe you.
I wouldn't mind Black Cat having a character that amounts to more than a sex object.
So this is the real reason why I wanted to do this video. Your mistakes on Web of Shadows were bad enough. I could have let them slide though. But then you had to go and slander Black Cat. You called her a sex object. As if she has no character or agency. Which I think speaks more on you than it does any of the game developers who worked on the webhead in the past. If you'll notice, they keep Black Cat's characterization fairly consistent across the Spider-Man titles, because she plays the same role she does in the comics. Using Web of Shadows as an example, when she's first introduced, she's working against Kingpin. She's doing something to stop a plan you aren't even aware of yet, as Spider-Man.
I'm a screw-up, okay?
You think? You do a heist for Kingpin, try to kill me.
I was working from the inside. I got in over my head and I couldn't get out of it, and then you show up way too early and I get this huge rush from seeing you.
You attacked me. And what do you mean I showed up early?
I was doing it for you, so you would see that we were made for each other.
Ooh. I'm sorry. I had no idea you still felt like that.
Really? Well, guess what? I do. I still love you. Look at us, wearing these stupid masks. Who are we really? We have all these powers and act like we're ashamed of them. Be with me. Together we can be whatever we want. Free from want, free from responsibility, free to have fun. You do like fun, don't you?
And then, after she lets you in on the plan, she reveals a lot of her inside information, helping you complete several missions and stop several crimes, saving hundreds of people. And the crux of all this? She still wants you to know that she loves you, well, Spider-Man, and thinks that you're wasting your time using your powers this way, while at the same time being willing to help you because she cares about you. She's clear character motivation that makes sense. She does the same thing in Spider-Man 2, where she's portrayed more as a thief than an anti-hero, but still offers Spider-Man a road she thinks suits him better.
I can't live the life that you do. My powers came with a responsibility, and I need the balance of a normal life. Being Spider-Man is who I am, but being just me. That's who I am too.
Let's skip ahead to the part where you ask if we can still be friends.
Can we still be friends?
Don't sound so dejected. Once I cross your path, I'm not so easy to get rid of. Go. Find your girl. That's what you want to do, right? You finally started listening to me. You're doing what you want.
A road where he uses his powers to help himself, rather than others. Again, she has clear motivation, and it ties into Spider-Man 2's narrative of the indecision between being Spider-Man and being Peter Parker. But no, she's just a sex object. Because she happens to be attractive. I can't focus on all of her character because of her well-trained body. Huh, Game Brain. And this isn't even mentioning how you left out Black Cat from the Amazing Spider-Man games, who I presume you would agree is dressed more conservatively and fills the same purpose as her other counterparts. No, not going to mention her, because it completely destroys your narrative and you need to push this Black Cat point really badly. You're also not going to mention Black Cat 2099 from Edge of Time, who you'd probably argue is the most like a sex object because of her costume, even though despite that costume she has an incredibly tragic character background of being forced into being a guard cat for Alchemax, while not even being the real Felicia Hardy. She's just a clone, which leads to a very rough goodbye after you beat her boss in the game. But no, she's sexy, so she has no character. And you had no reason not to mention her. Your video came out in 2016, when every Spider-Man game was out. My theory is that after sucking off Beanox so hard for Shattered Dimensions, you couldn't say anything bad about Edge of Time or you'd undermine your own point. You'd still be wrong, but at least you'd be intellectually honest. And that's the last part of your video I care to respond to. You're well spoken, but your research is shit. You completely undersold Web of Shadows and dismissed a character based only on her appearance. Not a huge fan of the whole we're not sexist, you're sexist argument, but it's true more often than not. And here, I think your visualization of her as a sex object, rather than seeing her obvious character traits, is through faults all your own. Oh, and to be clear, I don't legitimately believe that he's a sexist. Those were just jokes. Poking fun at the general idea that a character being a certain way automatically makes you against a certain gender, because that idea is absurd. But I know I'm kind of monotone, so some people may not get that, so I'll just making it clear. Jokes. This guy is probably like 99% of other men and believes in equality or whatever. I have faith that Insomniac will deliver a good Spider-Man game. My pre-order is proof of my faith. And they're going to have Black Cat in the game again as well. I expect she'll be as fleshed out as she's always been. I'd like to thank everyone for watching this video. We don't talk about video games much here, but we do have a passion for it and plan to try for a gaming channel in the future when this channel is a little bit bigger. For now, help us grow by hitting the subscribe button and the like button if you enjoyed. Comment down below to tell me your thoughts, share the video to stop the spread of misinformation, and hit us up in Discord if you want to talk more, linked down below. Also linked down in the box is our Instagram and Twitter, both of which you can follow for updates, though we're saving the Twitter for a joke during our next live stream, so be sure to instead follow my personal Twitter, which is also linked down below. But that's all I have to say for this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. This has been TAF108, the Supreme Duo channel, reminding you to demand more from your games and to stay supreme. Peace.